All right, welcome to the 32nd edition of Before the Battle. I am Nick Baldwin, and joining me, as always, is Best Fight Picks himself, Daniel Levy. Daniel, how's it going?
Doing amazing, dude. Obviously, this is a real stat card, and for today, Mike can take the best fight picks name because he picked Gunny over Tumenov. Very sharp pick, and I'm happy to talk about UFC 198 with you guys.
Yes, absolutely. Props to both you, Paolo, and you, Mike Biggie Rhodes, for getting that Gunnar Nelson call. I thought Tunov was going to win, so did Daniel, but yeah, Daniel is now Biggie right now, and of course Mike is of course Best Fight Picks. Paulo, go Paulo, writer for Sportsnet, and today's knockout. Also joining us as always, Paulo. How's it going?
How's it going, guys? Happy to be back. Let's get to talk some fights. This is a really exciting card. I can't wait.
And now you get to talk about the prelims too.
Yeah, I am here on time.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
here on time.
Now, Mike joining us for the second time, UFC veteran, middleweight fighter, Mike Biggie Rhodes. Thanks again, Mike, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and it's great to be back. Have an awesome card to look forward to this weekend, and I can't be right on all my picks, but we'll try.
Now, before we get to that, just quickly, you just had your next fight announced for June, so let the Before the Battle audience know where that's going down, where they can watch that, who you're fighting, all of the fight details for your next fight.
Yeah, so the contract has actually been signed, is sent in, and the fight is announced. I'm fighting for Victory Fighting Championships, VFC 51. That's going to be in Des Moines, Iowa. That's about 2 hours away from my hometown of Waterloo, Iowa. I will be fighting Rakeem Cleveland for the 185-pound strap. So should be a good time. Last time I fought in Des Moines, it was for the RFA title, and I got the whoop up on that pretty boy Alan Jaban. So, I fight in my hometown, on my home state, on that home, that home field advantage, and I just don't lose. So you can check that out. That's going to be on UFC's Fight Pass. And, I just can't wait to get another victory, man. Hopefully get right back into the UFC itself.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you back in action and hopefully one step closer to that UFC return. Now, let's get right into UFC 198 going down live from Curitiba, Brazil this weekend, May 14th. Kicking things off on UFC Fight Pass, we got Renato Moicano taking on Zubara Tukagov. Daniel, I'll start with you. Do you like Moicano here or Tukagov?
It's a really good fight between Moicano and Tukugov. I feel like Tukugov, I like to talk about those Russians, man. He circles around the ring, and this guy's interesting because he's real athletic. He keeps his left hand down like a boxer, and then he'll explode with big bombs. And on the ground, he's not half bad either. Really good takedown defense. He's got a will to win. He can go all 3 rounds, and he's beat a Brazilian in Brazil before, so it's not a first-time thing for him going down there. And with Renato Moicano, dude, this guy's awesome. You look at his record, and he's only won via submission, but you watch his fights, and you see the reason he wins via submission is because he drops dudes, and then he takes their back and chokes them out. Very long-range striker, very aggressive, but he hasn't fought since 2014, so he's coming off a big layoff. I'm wondering if he was injured or if he had, issues outside of the octagon, but regardless, he's coming back, and a lot of shit's changed in the UFC since he's been gone, so we'll have to see what the deal is. I'm going to lean with Tukugov for a unanimous decision.
Absolutely. Now, Paulo, do you like Moicano here or Tukagov?
I like Moicano here, actually. I was looking at his last fight. His last fight was against Tom Ninimaki, I think. Now, at one point, we all thought Tom Ninimaki was good because he had that big win against Haniaya, and then he ended up losing to everyone. And I think that Moicano loss was what got him cut from the UFC. But that was a short notice fight for him. What I really liked about him was he was really poised, and he was utilizing his reach effectively against Ninimaki, who's the same size as Tukagov, or at least in terms of the reach. I mean, this guy has a 72-inch reach for featherweight, man. I mean, that's pretty long, because most guys there have 70 or 69 or something. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Moicano here, because I think he's going to utilize his reach properly and keep Tukagov. Who, I think the thing about Tukagov is this guy fights like he wants to knock out people, but I don't think he has a lot of knockouts, really. So I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Moicano, and Moicano's going to probably submit him at some point in the third or second.
Now, Biggie, who do you like in this featherweight matchup?
I think I'm going to take Renato. I was looking at their records today, and Renato is dangerous on the ground, man. And Tukagov, It says that he's has a couple submission wins on his record as well. I think some TKO type of things. I see that he's training out at Tiger Muay Thai. So I just think that with the range, I think the distance is going to be close for both of the guys. The Russian likes to circle a lot, but he explodes in, and I think that's where he's going to get caught. Renato likes that, in the pocket type of range. That's where he thrives. He hits people, they fall down, and I can see him locking in a submission here. I'm going to go second round via submission for Renato.
Yeah, once again, it's Daniel and I versus you two, Paolo and Mike. I'm going to go with the Russian here. I like Tukagov by decision. Instantly, the fact that he's Russian, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about either guy here, but instantly, because this guy is Russian, despite this fight being in Brazil, I got to lean with him. He seems like one of the more unimpressive Russians in the UFC, though, coming off a split win over Felipe Nover. Nothing too impressive, but this guy has been relatively active. Moicano has been out of action, like Daniel pointed out, since 2014, so I don't know if this guy has been injured or if he's simply been waiting on the sidelines to get better, although that seems unlikely. I'm not sure why you would wait out for nearly a year and a half just to improve your skills. I could see you waiting out for sitting out for 6 months to even a year, but a year and a half is a bit much. This guy is good on the ground, like Mike, like you guys pointed out. Moicano definitely has the jiu-jitsu advantage. I think Tukagov has the wrestling advantage. So it's kind of a flip a coin fight for me, but I'll go with Tukagov for the decision. Now moving on, we got Sergio Moraes taking on UFC newcomer Luan Chagas. Daniel, do you like Chagas here, or the fairly sizable favorite here, Sergio the Panther Moraes?
Well, if you watch Luan Chagas fights, or you look at his record, you can see that he's never been to a decision before. The guy's very exciting, but then you look further on into his record, and you see that the guys he's beat are 3-3, 2-5, 4-18. So he's got a very padded record, and he's making his UFC debut on short notice against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion that's been knocking dudes out in Serginho Moraes. It's just Serginho's time right now. I think that Luan's going to be an exciting guy in the future, but Serginho's going to finish him on Saturday night.
Now, Biggie, do you like Moraes here, or the UFC newcomer Luan Chagas?
I like Sergio here. Moraes he's just shown a lot of growth in his fights. I think he came in, weighing heavily on being a jiu-jitsu black belt, having that skill on the ground, kind of just winging punches to get close, to drag people to the ground. He's been showing some actual decent boxing in a lot of his fights. He throws kicks. He's rangy. And he's just fought the better competition. He has a win over Neil Magny, which is huge right now. I mean, look at what Neil Magny has been doing in the welterweight division. And like you said, this guy, Chungas, he's coming up on a short notice type of deal. And his best bet to win the fight is on the ground. And that happens to suck when this guy's going to be better than you on the ground, better at what you do well. I just see Sergio Moraes being way too much. The weight cut's probably going to hinder this guy a little bit. So I see Sergio getting a submission here early first round. I think he overwhelms him, takes him down, and gets the finish.
Now, Apollo, are you siding with the fairly heavy favorite in this outing, Sergio Moraes?
Yeah, I will. But going back to the last fight, the reason why, what's his name, Moicano hasn't fought in a while is because I think he got injured last year in a fight against Bektik. Now, that would have been a hell of a fight if that fight actually happened, but that's the reason why he hasn't fought in so long. But yeah, no, I like Moraes. I don't need to break it down anymore. Biggie and Best Fight Picks pretty much said what needed to be said. But one thing I want to point out is this guy, Chagas, this guy can get aggressive, man. I mean, he's one of those guys, he's a grappler, but he likes to come out there and swing for the fences for some reason. So Moraes has been displaying a little bit of a knockout power lately when he dusted Akhmedov. So if this Chagas guy gets aggressive, I can see Moraes knocking him out, probably submitting him, or just knocking him out. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, you guys definitely hit the nail on the head here. The odds are where they should be, I believe. Moraes is right around minus 410. Here we go. Yeah, minus 410. So fairly heavy odds in favor of Sergio Moraes, and I think he deserves that 4-1 odds here. Biggie pointed out Chagas. He's more or less a grappler, although he does have quite a few wins by knockout, so that is interesting. But he is his expertise is on the ground, and Moraes is absolutely better there in the BJJ department. So I think Moraes is just going to be too much for him. Chagas, you can't really be confident in him, even if you're picking him, because he's coming on up in short notice. And I know I picked Josh Emmett last week. Mike did as well. So it just kind of depends. Sometimes stepping in on short notice works for fighters. Other times it does not whatsoever. I got Moraes here. He's the better fighter, and I think he'll probably win this fight by submission. Now, moving on, we have a light heavyweight matchup between Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, Little Nog, taking on Patrick Cummins. Daniel, I'll start with you. Do you like Little Nog here or Patrick Cummins?
It's an interesting fight because I guarantee you Patrick Cummins is going to take him down. The one thing I cannot guarantee you is Little Nog going to be able to get back up, or is he going to get held down here? In his last fight against Shogun Rua, he got held down those last 2 rounds, and I mean, MMA math doesn't work. Shogun's way more experienced, but Pat Cummins is a serious wrestler. He will take him down, but it's a matter of can Lil Nog get up, because if he gets up, he's going to piece him up on the feet. I mean, there's a reason that Pat Cummins has 2 black eyes after every single fight. It's because he blocks punches with his face. So, you know, it comes down to can Lil Nog get up or not, and if he gets up, he'll win this fight.
Now, Paolo, do you like Cummins here, or will the Brazilian legend get the job done?
I'll continue in Daniel's point, and I'm going to say that, yeah, Lil Nog is going to be able to knock him out at some point. I think he's going to manage to keep the fight standing during that whole 10 minutes or however else it's going to long, and eventually catch Cummins. Because Cummins, like Daniel said, this guy, he has bad defense, and he has a bad chin, too. So that's not a good combination when Lil Nog has some sneaky power and some pretty good boxing. So I think Lil Nog's going to catch him at some point and put him away.
Now, Biggie, who do you like in this 205-pound matchup?
Man, these guys almost talked me into changing my pick, but I'm going to stick with Patrick Cummins here. I think Little Nog is, you know, he's just as old as his brother, man. He's at the point where, you know, retirement is sneaking up on him, but he has had flashes in the past where he has heavy hands, and he does have pretty decent wrestling defense, but I can see Patrick Cummins getting in and being able to take him down and being able to hold him down. I'm going to take Patrick Cummins here via unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Patrick Cummins here as well. And something interesting that I do want to point out, though, is I actually had him on my other show, the MMA Circus, a couple weeks back, and he told me that whether or not this actually happens, he told me that he wants to stand with Lil Nog, and then if that doesn't work out, if he starts getting hit a little bit, then he'll go to his wrestling roots and just grind this one out. And I was kind of thinking, yeah, you probably shouldn't stand with Little Nog here. Like Paulo mentioned, he doesn't have the greatest defense, and his chin is definitely weak. So I wouldn't be shocked if Little Nog knocks him out. If Cummins does try and stand with him, I think he can do somewhat well on the feet, but ultimately Little Nog is the better boxer out of the two. So I think he probably comes out standing for a little bit. Maybe even gets hit a little bit. I'm not sure if he gets rocked or hurt or anything like that, but I think he does ultimately start to take him down and just grind out this one for a unanimous decision to get back into the winning column. Now, next up, we have a very fun bantamweight matchup kicking off the Fox Sports 1 prelims. We got John Hands of Stone Lineker taking on Rob Font. Paulo, who do you like in this matchup?
I like Rob Font here, man. I think he's a lot more technical, and he's got a bit more of what's it called? I don't say safer game plan, but he's more of the type of guy that's more technical and cold in how he breaks a fight. Lineker can get heated and he can start going crazy and start winging punches there, but you know, in a brawl, it takes 2 to brawl, man. If one guy wants to brawl but the other guy doesn't, it's not gonna happen. The thing is, he fought Cisco, whose main style of fighting is brawling, and he's a brawler with a not so good chin, as Daniel pointed out heavily. So he got knocked out in subs. The thing about Font is we don't know how good his chin yet, especially against someone as heavy-handed as Lineker, because this guy hits really hard, man. He's like a little pocket of power. But so we'll see if Font can take some of the stuff he dishes out. But I like the more technical Rob Font to win here, probably by some kind of decision.
Now, Mike, do you like Rob Font here, the slight underdog, or will Hands of Stone keep on track with his winning ways?
Former fat boy Hands of Stone will definitely get the victory here. I just had to poke at him about the weight a little bit. That's the thing. Rob Font, I think he's stuck between styles, man. He wants to be he has a very good, Muay Thai type of stance, but you can tell that he tries to box from that stance. That Muay Thai stance is a little bit too tall, which keeps his head up. If you watch his last fight, he was getting hit with some shots because he doesn't have very good head movement because he's standing up so tall. It's hard to be able to move when you're standing in that kind of stance. And John Lineker is the wrong guy to not be able to move your head against. So Rob Font likes to come, he closes the distance a lot. He tries to be a little fancy with his strikes. I think he's a little confused on his feet. I can see him getting definitely rocked with some big bombs from Lineker and getting finished. So I'm going to go Lineker with the TKO second round.
Now, Daniel, I know you're really high on Rob Font. I believe you already have a bet on him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if so, I'm assuming you're going with the Rob Font. Tell us why.
I mean, you got to go with the dog here because Rob Font, he stays disciplined in there. I mean, his last fight, he was going up against a dude that was like 6 feet tall. This time he's going up against a dude that's 5'2". And I understand, as a fan, how could you not love John Lineker? I mean, the dude closes the distance with big bombs. He mixes it up to the body. He knocks dudes out. So as a fan, I love John Lineker. But as a betting man, I mean, you got to go with the dog here because he moves around the ring. We need a dude that'll not get suckered into a brawl, that'll move around. He's a mover. And he stays disciplined, pop that jab, pop, pop, and then when Lineker tries to close that distance, that's when you catch him and put him down. So I got to go with Rob Font, man, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're split here on the show once again. I'm going to go with John Lineker, but man, this is a hell of a matchup. Stylistically, this is one of the best fights on the card, and you have fantastic fights, including a heavyweight matchup. Heavyweight title fight, which we'll get to later, a middleweight matchup between Jacare and Belfort, a Cyborg's debut, Barberina Alves, and you can't forget Maia versus Brown. But this is one of the better fights stylistically on the card. Now, Rob Font is the better striker, but I don't think that is going to matter in this matchup. John Lineker, like you guys pointed out, I believe it is Paolo that, or maybe it's Mike, I don't remember, but one of you guys said he's basically a pocket full of power, and that's absolutely correct. He probably is the hardest. Well, he was the hardest hitter at flyweight, and could be one of the hardest hitters at bantamweight even. One issue I have with John Lineker is, of course, the size. He looked very, very small against Francisco Rivera in his bantamweight debut. And I said after that fight, I picked Lineker leading into that fight, but I said afterwards, man, he looked really small up against top competition. I think that's going to be an issue. I don't think he's going to be able to land those bombs. Now, Rob Font, he's a big up-and-comer. I love Rob Font, but I don't think he's at that level yet of championship caliber or even top 5 caliber where he's able to avoid the Hands of Stone. I do think John Lineker forces Rob Font into a brawl, although I'm very aware that Font is going to want to use his movement and stay away from the Hands of Stone. I don't think he will be able to. I think he gets caught. I would like to see Rob Font win. I've interviewed him. I'm a big fan of his, but I like John Lineker here, but don't count out either fighter in this one. It's going to be a very fun fight for as long as it lasts. Now, moving on, we got a lightweight matchup between Francisco Trinaldo taking on Yancy Medeiros. Big, I'll start with you. Do you like Trinaldo here, or do you like Yancy Medeiros?
This is definitely a pick'em fight for me. Trinaldo has looked good as of late, which is rare. With the coming of age, you normally see fighters go backwards. As he's been getting older, he's actually been getting better. Not the most exciting performances, but he's definitely getting the victories, getting wins. Yancy Medeiros is long, rangy, has the awkward kind of stand up. But he is susceptible to being rocked. He's been hit to the body and been finished. He gets hit, he gets wobbly, and that's an issue. Trinaldo likes to throw some heat there. So if Yancy can keep the range fight smart, teep kicks, front kicks, keep the jab pumping, straight punches, he definitely can win the fight. But if he allows Trinaldo to close the distance, hold him up against the cage, grind him a little bit, and drag it into later rounds, I can see Trinaldo getting the victory that way.
Now, Daniel, Trinaldo or will Yancy Medeiros pull off the upset?
I agree with Biggie on this one, man. I mean, Yancy, if he shows up at his best, he can win this fight. Now, the thing with Trinaldo, we've all been impressed with him lately. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and his last 2 fights, man, he knocked out Lepre in the first round. He whooped Ross Pearson for all 3 rounds. And, I mean, the guy's a 36-year-old aging competitor, so it's quite interesting to see. I think what happened was, prior to him becoming an MMA fighter, he was actually a world champion kickboxer, but it didn't really translate into MMA until his takedown defense got up to par, and now I think we're seeing his striking a little more. He's mixing it up to the body, as you saw in the Norman Park fight. He's knocking dudes out, as you saw in the Lepre fight. But the thing with Yancy, Mike said it's a pick-em, and I completely agree. But the line right now is plus 200 for Yancy. He's not a plus 200 in this spot, in my opinion. So I'd like to see the dog, stick and move, try to fight smart, pop, move around the ring. And if he does that, I do think he can win. But, he does, he has been susceptible to getting rocked in the past, like Biggie mentioned, the Dustin Poirier fight, even the Yves Edwards fight before he knocked him out. He was getting tagged good there. So that's not going to bode well against Trinaldo. He's got to stick and move. And if he does, I think he'll pick up the win. But if he doesn't fight smart, he's going to lose.
Now, Paolo, will Brazil be victorious in this 155-pound matchup?
Yeah, Trinaldo's going to win here, most likely, I think. Even though he doesn't fight similar to Tebow, for some reason, I feel like he's the second coming of Gleison Tebow. I just don't know why. He's just this guy who's like, he's like on a 5 or 6 fight winning streak, and it's like the longest winning streak nobody's heard of or nobody's like really cared about. You know what I mean? But I'm sure he has got a lot of fans. And Massaran Duba, that guy was a popular character he was named after. So, Brazil's gonna be cheering hard for him. But as of this fight, Big and Mike already, Big and Daniel already broke it down. So, yeah, I don't think Medeiros is gonna be able to submit him or finish him. And I think the thing about Trinaldo is he's gonna be able to just get him close with him and not respect his stand-up at all. So I think once Trinaldo's within his distance, he's gonna win. Trinaldo by decision.
Yeah, you gotta go with Trinaldo here, although it is a close matchup. Trinaldo started out kind of just as a grinder, fairly putting on relatively boring fights, but now you saw against Chad Laprise up here in Canada, he's finally using his kickboxing credentials and knocking guys out. He looked really really good in that Ross Pearson outing. I like Trinaldo here. It's a close matchup though. Yancy Medeiros, I think his best bet, although only a quarter of his wins are by submission, I actually think his best bet is to win this fight by submission. I don't think he's going to be able to do that though. Trinaldo, a rather tough fighter. Somewhat controversial. He seems like more than often his controversial decisions go his way. So he has that advantage. It's in Brazil, and if it's a close decision, and I think it will be, chances are Master Nduba is going to get that nod. So I'll go with Trinaldo here by decision. It's a close fight. It probably could go either way, but I think you got to favor the Brazilian Francisco Trinaldo. Now moving on, we have a very, very interesting middleweight matchup. We got Thiago Santos taking on Nate the Great Marquardt. Paulo, who do you like in this one?
I like Thiago Santos here, man. I think Nate Marquardt knocking out CV Dalloway is probably the worst thing that could have happened to him, because now he's going to get knocked out by Thiago Santos. So he's getting rewarded for a great performance with a death sentence. I know, Nate still has that power. He still has the good striking, so you can never count him out. But Thiago Santos has a decent chin, but if you get cracked by Nate, you're going to get hurt. But, man, Thiago Santos is just a much better striker than Nate, and as he showed in his last fight, his takedown defense is getting better. So I think he's going to keep the fight standing and get Nate out of there maybe in 1 round, and hopefully it's 1 strike like he did to Bossi.
Now, Daniel, is Thiago Santos, the Brazilian, going to knock out Nate the Great, or will Nate the Great continue his winning streak?
Nate's actually a lot better than people think. It's just a matter of he doesn't have that will to win or that heart anymore that he used to have. I guess he's an aging competitor, man. Once you've been knocked out a certain amount of times and you've dropped that many fights the way he has in fights, look for the door multiple times. It is what it is, man. And the thing here is, if Thiago starts fighting cocky and puts his hands down, maybe he could get caught. But I don't think that's going to happen here, man. He's been improving every single fight. He showed great takedown defense his last fight against Elias. And obviously we all know that body kick, when you hear the sound of that body kick, I mean, you cringe when you hear that sound, man. And here's the deal. If he cracks, or when he cracks Nate Marco with that body kick, I'm not going to be surprised if Nate takes a knee and looks for the ref, man, because it is what it is. He's at that point in his career. So I got to go with Thiago here.
Now, Mike, do you like Thiago Santos here, the relatively sizable favorite here, or will Nate Marquardt pull off the upset?
I'm going to take the dog here. I'm taking Nate Marquardt. I think Nate will be able to make it an ugly fight early. I think he's going to go after Thiago. I think Nate's going to either have that – I think he's going to live or die by the sword type of attitude in this fight because I think he knows as the fight goes on, he might be in deep water. So I think Nate's going to go out there and try and test Thiago's chin early. I think he's going to push him up against the cage, grind on him a little bit, and wear on the striker. I think Nate, he is an aging fighter, but I think he's a very scrappy and intelligent fighter if he chooses to be so. If he tries to stay at range and fight Thiago Santos, he's going to be in for a rude awakening. I think he's going to get knocked out if he stays at range. But I think Nate's going to close the distance, stay within the boxing range, get in the pocket, and Nate still does have that power. So it only takes one shot from Nate. So if he comes to fight, like I know he can, he's a very, very dangerous fighter. I had the opportunity to fight on the same card as him before, and I watched him go out there and whoop James Tuhuna in his home country. So I think that I can see him, coming out with the same result here, hitting him, knocking him to the ground, and Nate has a pretty good ground game as well. I think he hurts him, either finish TKO or gets the submission.
Wow, bold pick here from Mike Rhodes. Now, I got to go against you here on this one. I really, really like Thiago Santos here. The odds have him as quite a big favorite here, minus 360, Marquardt plus 295. That's where it should be. This is the second biggest lock on the card in my opinion. Nate Marquardt. I agree with Daniel that I don't think he has the most heart and the will to win anymore. He, of course, once did. And I don't think his chin is really that good either. So Thiago Santos, it doesn't matter if Marquardt's chin is good or not. If Thiago Santos lands with a kick or even a combination, whatever, Nate Marquardt is going to sleep. So I think that's what's going to happen. Thiago Santos is a very devastating striker. He's getting better each and every day coming off that impressive win over the Spartan Elias Diodoro. So I really like Thiago Santos here by knockout. Now moving on, we got Damian Maia taking on Matt Brown in the main event of the Fox Sports 1 prelims. A very intriguing welterweight matchup with possible title implications on the line, with Damian Maia at number 6 and Matt Brown, the Immortal, at number 8. Daniel, you're a big fan of Brown, but will he pull off the upset here over Damian Maia?
He can pull up the upset, but will he? I don't know, man. I mean, Damian Maia is the worst possible matchup for him. We know that. He knows that. But with that said, you can never count Matt Brown out of a fight. He has a chance against anyone in the welterweight division. And if he's going to win this fight, what he has to do is he actually has to use his movement in this fight. If he goes to get in the clinch with Damian Maia, he's going to get taken down. And Matt Brown does love to fight in the clinch. But he also, doesn't do too bad long range, throws nice head kicks. He actually is the most accurate striker in UFC welterweight history. A lot of people don't know that because they look at him as a brawler, but he's actually a lot more technical than you think. The first round could be, if he doesn't get submitted, it's going to be interesting because Damian Maia is known for gassing late in fights. And if there's one guy you don't want to gas against, it's Matt Brown. So, I mean, if this was a pick'em, maybe I'd lean towards Maia, but due to the fact that Matt Brown is upwards of 3-1, you got to go with the dog here, man, and hope that he doesn't get tapped out. He can hopefully get back up to his feet and knock him out. Like, he came on half the battle, and he said the reason he wanted this fight was because it was the worst possible matchup for him. I mean, that's the kind of competitor we're dealing with here. So it's a matter of not getting tapped out in the first round. And if he doesn't get tapped out, he can make Damian Maia gas, and the fact that Maia's going to have to keep working on those guard passes. He's going to have to keep working on, sinking in that rear naked choke, and Matt Brown can hopefully fight the hands and hopefully get back up to his feet and knock him out.
Now, Biggie, are you going with Matt Brown here, former top contender of the welterweight division, still a tough guy, number 8, or will Damian Maia continue up and onwards with his winning streak right now?
I'm taking Damian Maia here. I think it's going to be a fairly simple fight. I think Damian Maia, ever since the fight here in Chicago, striking has looked a lot better, which allows him to close the gap in the distance a lot easier. Allows him to get into the clinch and allows him to drag people down to the ground. You guys know I'm very high on Gunnar Nelson, and I think Gunnar made some very simple mistakes. I watched that fight twice today. He made some very simple mistakes in that fight against Damian Maia, which led him, who is a very good grappler, into some bad positions. I think Matt Brown will be he's going to be in the Shark Tank. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get his guard passed. That's going to wear on his arms. It's going to wear on his conditioning. Even if he doesn't get subbed in the first, Damian Maia can grapple all day. He'll never get tired grappling. He'll be able to keep that pressure, keep the positioning, and I think he'll submit Matt Brown in the first round, but definitely he'll get the victory.
Now, Paolo, finally, do you like Damian Maia here, or will the immortal Matt Brown pick up the upset?
I'm going to go with Damian Maia here, best fight picks, a.k.a. Biggie. Just beautifully said right there, man. Damian Maia's another kind of grappler, man. I mean, this guy injured Dong Hyun Kim, man, by taking him down, man. Dong Hyun Kim had a muscle spasm from defending Damian Maia's pressure all the time. And Kim was like this, and Kim, decision Matt Brown. That was a long time ago. Matt Brown's a better wrestler than he was before, and Dong Hyun Kim's not going to do the same to him. But Kim's still one of the better grapplers in the division, and Maia just freaking toyed with him like that. So it's one thing to deal with someone like a Dong Hyun Kim like Matt Brown did, and it's another thing to deal with Damian Maia. So I think Damian Maia's going to submit Matt Brown at some point, although I'm pulling for Matt Brown here. I think if Matt Brown wins this fight, damn, man, that's going to be a huge statement.
Yeah, I got to go with Damian Maia here, but I'm not as confident as some people are. Matt Brown, you just can't count out Matt Brown of any fight. He fights Johnny Hendricks, and yeah, Johnny Hendricks picked up that win with his takedowns, just grinded out that victory, but you still couldn't really count out Matt Brown. You can't count him out of a Robbie Lawler fight. You can't count him out of any fight, really. It's Matt the Immortal Brown. On the other hand, Damian Maia has been looking amazing as of late. His jiu-jitsu, I still believe it's probably improving. He's dominating people now. And a couple years ago he was looking all right, but he's on a huge winning streak right now, and I do believe that continues on May 14th. Matt Brown, like Daniel said, he wanted this fight because it was the worst stylistical matchup for him, and that it is. And unfortunately for him, Damian Maia's going to prove that. Maia's going to take him down. He's going to grind out Matt Brown. Some people are saying, yeah, Damian Maia, first-round submission. Now, Mike, you said it right here. I don't think Matt Brown will get submitted, though. I do think he loses, but I think it goes to the judge's scorecard. Matt Brown is so tough. You saw that Eric Silva fight. He nearly got submitted in that one. He was very close, but he survived. His toughness, just being a greedy fighter, he survived and ultimately went on to win that fight by TKO. I think he's going to do same thing in this Damian Maia matchup. First round, Damian Maia is going to be looking really quick, has lots of energy going for those takedowns, going to get those takedowns close to like a rear naked choke or guillotine sunk in. But Matt Brown will be able to survive, and I think it gets closer as the time goes on. Damian Maia, like you guys mentioned, is kind of known for gassing, although his cardio looked really good against Gunnar Nelson in his last fight. Matt Brown just doesn't tire though, so I think Matt Brown will make it a close fight in the second and third rounds. But I think Maia will be able to do enough in that first and second to win a 29-28 decision. So I'm going with the Brazilian here, but definitely not confident. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Matt Brown pulls off the upset. Now, next up, opening fight on the pay-per-view main card, we got Warlley Alves taking on Bryan Barberena. Now, Barberena's coming off that Stage Northcutt victory. So with that in mind, Daniel, do you think he gets a nod here?
You know, I respect Bryan Barberena a lot. He's the kind of guy that he'll take everything you have in that first round, and then he'll put it on you in the second and third round, as you saw in the Chad Lepre fight and the Sage Northcutt fight. But he's fighting a completely different animal here in Warlley Alves, and not only that, I think he's simply too small for the weight class, man. He's a 55er. He shouldn't be fighting at 70. And Warlley Alves, even though he gassed out in that Juban fight, I think he addressed those problems, man. His next two fights, he went out there and destroyed the guys, against Nordine Taleb and Colby Covington, albeit the Colby Covington fight did end in the first round, so you didn't really get to see his cardio. But in the Nordine fight, it went to the second round. He was perfectly fine. So I think I don't know if he's going to finish Barberena, but I do think he's going to win this fight.
And you mentioned Bryan Barberena's size at disadvantage going into this one. I kind of look at it like Benson Henderson. He goes in there against Koreshkov and gets dominated, mostly because of his size.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you one bit. So we'll have to see what happens, but I definitely think Warlley Alves is going to find a way to win.
Mike, do you like Warlley Alves, the Brazilian here, or will Bryan Barberena pull off the upset? Mike?
Was that me?
Yeah.
What's up, Mike?
Oh, sorry, you were cutting off. You say my name. I want to go with Warlley Alves. I'm just not confident in his and he is the gas and assassin, man. So I think Bryan might weather that storm early in the fight and be able to come back in the second and third and still the fight. But that's what I'm thinking could happen. Will it happen? Most likely not. I'm going to take the Brazilian in this matchup. I don't know how he gets it done, but I think he might be able to do enough in the first and second to survive a late onslaught by Bryan in the third. So I'm going to take Warlley Alves, a.k.a. the Gas and Assassin, number 2. Yeah, I think he's going to win.
Hey, who's the Gas and Assassin number 1? Oh, man, this dude's frozen.
Yeah. Oh no, I see him blinking, so I don't know if he just doesn't have an answer or if he's actually not there. I don't know. Mike?
You guys not hear me?
No.
No.
Hey.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Man.
You guys not hear me?
Who's the Gas and Assassin number 1?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Gas and Assassin number 1?
Everyone's cutting out right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yo, we should go to that next fight, bro. Let him refresh this shit.
This is intriguing, though. This answer, who's number 1 Gas and Assassin? Yeah, we can hear you for the 20th time.
Now we all need to know who number 1 is. The show's at a standstill now. We gotta know who number 1 is now.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get number 1. Hopefully, Mike can refresh.
You guys are cutting out super bad.
Refresh.
It seems like It seems like he's here when he's telling us we're cutting out, but then he's not when he's saying who's number 1 Gas and Assassin. So of course it's that way, but hopefully Mike will be back to let us know who's going to win on the main card first off, and also who is number 1 Gas and Assassin. But yeah, so my pick for wait, Paolo, did you give your pick? This whole thing has been distracting.
I haven't given my pick yet, but I'll keep it short. Right. I like Alves here. I'm very high on this guy. I think he's going to finish Barberena, although I'm worried that if he doesn't finish him early, that he might gas and make it a closer fight than it should be. But I think he's going to get him out of there quickly. So I like Warlley Alves here.
Okay, now, Mike, are you back?
I am back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Brilliant.
Who is the question we've all been waiting for? Who is the number 1 Gas and Assassin?
Vitor Belfort is the #1 gas assassin. He's later on the card, so we'll definitely be getting to that then.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, anyways, Worley Alves taking on Brian Barberena. Who do I like in this one? Now, Brian Barberena, I picked him against Sage Northcutt, but that wasn't necessarily because I'm overly high on Brian Barberena. That's because I saw a huge flaw in Sage Northcutt's game that not too many other people saw, and ultimately Barberena was able to capitalize on that and get that win. And of course, Sage Northcutt quickly tapped, which I wasn't necessarily counting in when I broke that fight down. But nevertheless, Worley Alves, this guy's a different animal. This guy is a big welterweight fighter. I believe he won the Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3 back in 2014, May 2014, at middleweight. So this guy, although I believe he's a natural welterweight, he has fought at middleweight. So he has the body for a middleweight fighter in between. Like, he's a large welterweight, where Brian Barberena is a small welterweight. He's moving up because that weight cut was a bit too tough. But man, similar to John Lineker and of course Benson Henderson, who I mentioned a second ago when Daniel was giving his thoughts on this fight. Same situation. He goes up against lower level competition or guys his size. Sage Northcutt, you got to remember, he's also a lightweight. That wasn't an issue, but now it will be. Worley Alves is a lot bigger. Although Barberena, now that I'm looking at, is 1 inch taller, so that is interesting. But build-wise, Worley Alves is of course bigger. This guy is better than Barberena just everywhere. I think his striking is better. Barberena can get a bit sloppy in the later rounds. He's a very gritty fighter, so that's one thing going for him. He can't get finished quickly. I don't think he's ever been finished in his UFC career. And most likely hasn't been finished either outside his UFC career. Worley Alves is a beast, though. I'm really high on Alves. I like Worley Alves by first-round submission here. I think he's better on the feet, and I think he's better on the ground. I'm going Worley Alves by a first-round submission. And I will say I do like Brian Barberena as a person, but I will say I would be surprised if he pulls off the upset here. Now, next up, we got Mauricio Shogun Hua, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, taking on TUF 19 winner Corey Beaston 25-8 Anderson. Now, Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
You know I got to go with Mauricio Shogun here, man. I mean, look, if this fight goes to the second or third round, it'll probably be one of those situations where it's very sad and he can't get up from the takedown and he's getting grinded out. But in that first round, you know, Corey's shown that, you know, he's done the chicken dance in multiple fights, man. And if there's one guy you don't want to do the chicken dance against, it's Mauricio Shogun, because he knocks dudes out. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he knocks Corey Anderson out in the first round. I mean, the level of competition, you know, is unmatched. I mean, one dude's a former champion. The other dude he's working his way up the ranks. He is the younger, fresher fighter. But I got to go with Shogun. He's the legend. He's the underdog in Brazil. Let's knock him out, dude.
Now, Paolo, bold prediction there from Daniel. Are you going with Daniel here? Do you like the former champion Shogun Hua to pull off the upset, or will Corey Anderson continue his winning ways?
No, I like Shogun Hua to knock out Corey Anderson here. Like, I faded Corey Anderson against Tom Lawler, and Tom Lawler was rocking him and just couldn't get the job done. I think Shogun Hua is a so much better striker than Tom Lawler is and has so much more power. So the moment he touches him up good, Anderson's gonna feel it, and Hua's gonna know. He's like one of those fighters. When he sees blood in the water, he's gonna go at you and he's gonna try to kill you, like another fighter that's gonna be coming up later. But yeah, I think once Anderson shows some weakness in there, Shogun's gonna finish him off, man. Who by knockout?
And Biggie, we have 2 upsets so far. Are you going with Corey Anderson here, or will the Brazilian legend pull off the win?
This fight for me is, do I take the personal pick and pick the guy that I know, or do I take, you know, what the MMA math and what everything else in me is telling me to pick in Shogun? You know, a lot of people don't know Corey Anderson actually got his start with us here at Rufus Sport. The reason why he got into MMA is because Ben Askren brought him to our gym. He didn't want to fight. Ben Askren brought him here. He doesn't bring that up too much anymore. He talks about the Kennel Club and where he trains at in New Jersey now. But, yeah, he shows some weakness in his striking as far as having power. He fights like a guy at a lighter weight. You know, he likes to put out a value of strikes. He throws 300, 400 shots in the fight, but that just lets you know that the power isn't there. He's not sitting down on his punches. And the thing is you don't want to pop shot with Shogun. Jabbing and fading into Shogun's big right hand will be, fatal. Also, Shogun is no slouch in the wrestling department. He can defend the takedowns if it hits the ground. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's great on the ground with sweeps, being able to get back to his feet. Corey does keep a high pace, but there's not even a lot of damage there. And we see that, Shogun in the fight with Dan Henderson, he takes a shot, he can give a shot, he can go. And if Shogun shows up in shape and ready to go, like I know he will in his home country and home city of in Brazil, it's just tough for Corey Anderson to pull out that victory there. I'm going to go with Shogun Rua.
Wow, I did not expect 3 upsets. I like Corey Anderson, and now any long time before the battle listeners here know how I break down Corey Anderson fights. He beats 25-8. Shogun Rua and his other opponents beats 24-7, so you got to go with Corey Anderson in this one. But honestly, I actually do like Corey Anderson here. I think he grinds out a victory here. I don't think there's really anything else to say. I think he takes down a Shogun multiple times. I think he grinds this one out. On the feet, who probably is better, Corey Anderson. I don't love his chin. He got knocked out by Jean Vellante after winning the first 2 rounds. Or he was going into that 3rd round winning, something along those lines. He was definitely up, though, and then got knocked out with like 1 or 2 minutes to go. So never count out Rua, who, of course, the knockout artist himself. Don't count him out. But I do think the smarter pick here is Corey Anderson because he beats 25-8. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now we got Chris Cyborg, the Invicta FC featherweight champion, making her highly anticipated UFC debut against Leslie Smith. Now, it's not Kat Zingano, it's not Ronda Rousey, not Miocic Tate, not Holly Holm, but we got Chris Cyborg taking on Leslie Smith. Daniel, first off, if anyone is picking the upset here, quickly let us know why, just so people don't harass you on Twitter for the rest of your life. But Daniel, I'll start with you. Chris Cyborg, how does she get it done?
Well, basically, there's a lot of, if you had to make a case for Leslie Smith, this is what it would be. This is the first time that Cyborg fights under USADA in the UFC. First time she fights at 140 pounds. And I honestly think she's really overrated. I understand she's vicious, but if you watch the highlights, you see her killing people. But if you watch the actual fights, I mean, she gets clinched up against the fence. And if she was fighting Kat Zingano, and Zingano was like a plus 800 underdog, I would take that shot all day. But obviously, Leslie Smith, she's kind of slow, she's kind of stiff. She's what we like to refer to as a journeyman for the women's division, interestingly enough. And, she's being brought in here to lose. She probably will lose. But, man, once Cyborg starts fighting people like Kat Zingano, I'm taking that shot all day.
Now, Biggie, first off, if you like Leslie Smith, like I said, state your case. If not, when does this fight end?
Cyborg being first round destruction. She's gonna murder that poor young lady that they flew over to Brazil. Yeah, that's it is what it is. They want Cyborg. They're trying to get her down to that 35 weight class, so they can get the marquee matchups that they really want. And I think that's the only way they're gonna get them. She has to take this fight at 140. They kind of just want to see where she's at, how's her health. But she definitely destroys Leslie Smith, and I think it's going to be vicious.
Now, Paolo, Chris Cyborg, does she get the job done? If not, how does Leslie Smith win? And I'll assume you're going with the Cyborg here. So how long does it last?
You see, the thing is, the whole weight cutting thing. See, Cyborg got busted for steroids before, and she says the reason was because she needed it for weight cutting. If you're already going to be going through those drastic reasons just to get to 145, what more would 140? Now, I mean, her weight manager, George Lockhart, said that he's confident he can get her down to 135, but Cyborg said, no, I don't want to go to 135. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but, she's going to kill Leslie Smith. The only thing is if she doesn't get her out of there fast, or if she, I don't know, she's not as explosive or doesn't have that, just sheer spectacle of destroying someone in there, it's going to look really unimpressive. So I think she either wins within the first 3-4 minutes or it's a bust.
Well, the thing with this matchup is I have to go with Chris Cyborg here by first round destruction. I think she gets the job done in the first round, knocks out Leslie Smith. I think it's going to be a vicious performance from Chris Cyborg. But there's two things about this fight that make me believe Leslie Smith has a small chance, a very, very small chance. Like Paolo mentioned, the weight cut. People are saying, oh yeah, this is the best weight cut of Chris Cyborg's debut. I don't believe it until I see it. She makes the weight, and I do believe she does make the weight, but nevertheless, it's going to be a tough weight cut. She's never been to 140 in her life, and this will be the first time, and we don't know how drained out she really will be. It's very possible that she looks really, really bad, so that's an interesting stance, I feel. And even with that in mind, you got to go with Cyborg. And the other thing is, everyone is saying, oh yeah, this is a showcase matchup for Chris Cyborg, and yes, it is. I do agree, but this is of course, this is Leslie Smith's biggest fight to date, but you can kind of say this is Cyborg's biggest fight to date in the sense that I think Leslie Smith is the toughest opponent she's ever fought. Leslie Smith is a very gritty fighter. Now, Chris Cyborg, like I said, I still think she gets the job done in the first round, but Leslie Smith, she doesn't get knocked out that easily. She's a very gritty fighter. She's so tough. You saw her ear basically off her head in that fight with Jessica Ai back in 2014. That just proves her toughness. Now, most fighters would either tap out or their corners would stop it, but she kept fighting until I believe it was the doctor that ended up stopping that fight. She wanted that fight, I believe, to continue if it could, but you can't really fight with your ear hanging off your head, basically. So in that sense, I have to give Leslie Smith a chance just because of possible weight-cutting issues with Cyborg, and also because I do believe this is the best fighter Cyborg has ever faced in her 17 or 18 fight career. And in Toutmaster, I'm actually putting Leslie Smith on my Toutmaster team simply because if she wins, that's 11 points. I'd rather risk that 1 point loss than possibly taking over first place or whatever with that 11 points. So I think it's worth a shot. But Chris Cyborg, she will get the job done. But I'd like to see Smith make it an interesting fight and closer than some people think. Now moving on, we got Ronaldo. Daniel, did you want to say something? No.
Not yet, man. You can introduce the fight real quick.
I thought you had your finger up about the Cyborg fight, but never mind. Jacare Souza, Ronaldo Jacare Souza taking on Vitor Belfort. Now, Mike, I already forgot what you were calling that after all that, and I forgot your term, but you'll have to reintroduce that in a second. But Daniel, I'll start with you. Will Vitor Belfort pull off the upset here, or will Jacare Souza get back into the winning column?
Well, I know a lot of people are going to talk about Vitor's dad bod, but, let's talk about Jacare's dad bod, too, because, USADA's been a bitch for both of them. But here's the deal, man. In that first round, that's Vitor's chance. He better knock him out in the first round if he wants to win this fight, because if he gets taken down, man, it could be game over real quick. Jacare is no slouch on the ground, obviously. His stand-up's not half bad either. But with Vitor, he's got that signature blitz in the first round, and he can knock anybody out. Jacare has been a little chinny in a couple fights. Jorge Patino knocked him out. Musasi knocked him out. Yoel had him doing the chicken dance. And, Vitor Belfort, you never count him out in a fight. In his UFC fights, he's only lost to champions. John Jones, Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva. And in my opinion, Jacare is not on that level. A lot of people talk about Vitor's age, but Jacare is, they're the same age, dude. Jacare is like 37, 38. So I'm going to bank on Vitor getting that first-round knockout, but if he doesn't, he's going to get taken down and get tapped out.
Now, Mike, will Vitor Belfort to win this fight, or will Jacare Souza pull it off?
Vitor Belfort, a.k.a. the Gas and Assassin #1,
there we go.
will definitely lose this fight. Jacare Souza is and should be still on a winning streak. Jacare Souza should be fighting for the middleweight title. Jacare Souza, in my opinion, beat Yoel Romero in that fight.
What?
I just don't see how that went. His jiu-jitsu is #1 in the UFC. We're having this conversation between him and Damian Maia as the best grappler. I think Jacare Souza is the best grappler in the UFC. I think I've seen some stat like 16 out of 22 of his victories are all by submission. Vitor Belfort he's dangerous. Always will be. He'll run across the cage, run you from one side to the other, throwing straight punches. But Jacare Souza will weather the storm, get a hold of him. He's the much bigger fighter. He'll be able to grind him a little bit, get him to the ground. We've seen what Chris Weidman was able to do to Vitor Belfort on the ground. Jacare Souza will make it look fairly easy and get the submission win against Vitor Belfort.
All right, now, Paolo, are you going with the underdog here? Vitor, the Phenom Belfort, the former 205-pound champ, or will Ronaldo Jacare Souza get the win?
I think this fight could – well, the one thing I'm sure about is I think this fight could end really early, because either Belfort just charges in there and catches Jacare right away and puts him away, or Jacare goes for a takedown, takes Belfort down right away and submits him on the ground. So it's really hard for me to think. I just think that from betting thing, although I'm not betting right now, it's like you got to side with Belfort here because it's like, I don't know, it's closer to 50-50 than the odds indicate, in my opinion. So I think, but I'm going to go with Belfort here. I say Belfort's going to pull something out of his butt again. He's going to knock out Jacare, and people will be like, Vitor Belfort's back, and he's going to face Rockhold, and he's going to knock out Rockhold and be champion again. Okay, not the second part, but I think he's going to knock out Jacare.
Hey, real quick, Nick, I know this is post-USADA, but both Jacare and Vitor Belfort faced the current champ Luke Rockhold, and you guys know what happened in both those fights. One guy knocked the fuck out of Luke Rockhold, and the other dude, lost a 5-round decision. So take it for what it's worth.
The thing is, though, that other dude is going to win this fight. He's going to win in impressive fashion. Jacare Souza all day here. Now, Vitor Belfort, yeah. You can't count out Vitor the Phenom Belfort because he is Vitor the Phenom Belfort. He has that first-round flurry that can knock out just about anybody. And Jacare Souza, with his age, I'm not confident his chin is fantastic. We saw him get dropped by Yoel Romero. He got nearly finished in that fight. Now, Vitor Belfort hits just as hard as Yoel Romero, if not harder. So there is a possibility of that Vitor Belfort first-round flurry resulting in that knockout upset, but you got to go with Ronaldo Jacare Souza here. Yeah, they are close to the same age. I believe Belfort is 1 or 2 years older, but man, Jacare Souza is way younger in fight years. He hasn't taken nearly the damage as Vitor Belfort, and I still think Jacare Souza is one of the best middleweight fighters on the planet. I would rank him number 3 behind Rockhold and Romero. So I actually don't think he submits Vitor Belfort, though. I think he takes down Vitor Belfort and just pounds him out, kind of like that Weidman fight where it would take down, get into full mount, and just ground and pound from hell, and that's the fight. I think this is going to end quickly. Paolo, I believe it was you that mentioned this fight could end super quickly, and we will all be surprised. And this is a fight that I think it could end literally in under a minute. Like I'm not going to go out there and predict Jacare by TKO in 49 seconds, but I do think something crazy could happen. I'm going to go with Jacare Souza by TKO via ground and pound here. Like I said, you can't count out Belfort just because of who he is and how powerful he is, but post USADA, I hate to say it, it's not looking fantastic for the Phenom, and Jacare so far hasn't been too much affected by the post USADA, so got to go with Souza here by first round TKO. Now, next up, we got the main event of the evening. We got the UFC Heavyweight Championship on the line. Seems like the UFC Heavyweight Championship is on the line literally once every 2 years or so. So, still have to see a heavyweight title fight going down. We got Fabricio Werdum, the champion, taking on the number 3 contender, Stipe Miocic. Mike Biggie, who do you like, Fabricio Werdum to retain or Stipe Miocic to gain?
I'm going with Steve Miocic. I like the guy from Cleveland there. Just a tough, gritty guy, man, and he's been ever improving everywhere. I think that the key to the fight for him is being able to check the leg kicks, close the distance, and box. He needs to avoid the clinch, so he's got to make sure that he's not rushing in to allow himself to be clinched, but he needs to be right in that pocket, slinging leather. I think that he can touch Werdum up, get him hurt. I also think that, obviously I think he's the better wrestler, but I don't think taking Werdum down, especially in the early rounds, is smart because Werdum is probably the best heavyweight grappler that we have outside of, the aging and now USADA banned Frank Mir. But Werdum can catch anyone. His striking has looked phenomenal as of late. The tie clinch, his kicks. I really think being over there at King's MMA has definitely lit a fire underneath him and rejuvenated and restructured his striking. That being said, I am sticking with Stipe Miocic. I think he goes in and steals the belt, gets the decision victory, and people will continue to hate him on Twitter, but he has one of the funniest Twitter accounts out there as any fighter.
All right, now, Paolo, is Stipe Miocic going to become the new heavyweight champion here, or will Fabricio Werdum retain his championship?
Yeah, I like Stipe to outbox Werdum in the stand-up. Keep the fight standing, avoid the hot lava, as Robin termed it on his breakdown. Go check that out. It's really fun. Yeah, I like Miocic to keep the fight standing and outbox Werdum. The thing is, if you watch the Overeem and Werdum fight from Strikeforce, I think it was just a few years ago, that was one of the worst fights ever, because what happened was Werdum was basically like didn't want to strike with Overeem, so he just kept flopping in his back, and Overeem's not going to go on the ground with him, so he just keeps letting him stand up. So the thing about he was getting nicked up in that fight against Kane, against a gassed out Kane who like, Nazi level Kane. And I think Miocic is better than that kind of Kane. And I think he's going to put a whooping on Werdum, avoid the ground game, and win by decision.
All right, now, Daniel, are you going to agree with these two here, Mike and Paolo, and pick Stipe Miocic, or will the Brazilian defend his heavyweight belt for the very first time?
I mean, Stipe is definitely live here. You can never count him out of a fight. He's a workmanlike fighter, very good pace. But it's interesting. I used to think that he was kind of like the Bisping or the Frankie Edgar of heavyweight. But, what was his downfall against Junior Cigana? It was actually his cardio. So he's really not that cardio machine that I thought he was. But at the same time, I mean, in those first 2 rounds, Werdum has got to be on top of shit. But like Biggie said, he has been getting way better with his striking. And if you take Werdum down, he's most likely going to tap you out. So Stipe has to have the performance of his career here in Brazil against Werdum. It wouldn't surprise me to see the upset, but ultimately I do think Werdum will find a way to win.
Yeah, this is a very interesting fight in the sense that I think, technically, I believe Fabricio Werdum is probably the better fighter. Obviously, on the ground, he has a major advantage, and the striking is definitely close. Miocic is a fantastic boxer, and then Werdum is improving each and every day. He's great in the clinch, of course. His kicks are great as well. Like I said, he's improving in the striking department. But ultimately, I gotta go and new here. I'm going with Stipe Miocic to win by decision. Like I said, this is a very close fight. His game is basically boxing and takedowns, and takedowns is not going to be in this fight. And if it does, then we're going to see Werdum get his hand raised, first-round submission all day. If he's smart enough, and I do believe he's a very smart fighter, you don't have a poor IQ fighting when you're fighting Werdum for the title. You don't get to that spot in the rankings with a poor fight IQ. So Miocic knows that he can't take Werdum down. And if he does, he either has to get back right up or be very careful. But even with that said, it's still Werdum still probably would lock something up. I think he's going to keep the standing, and like I said, the stand-up is very close, like arguably 50-50. Miocic is a great boxer, that's most of his game, and then Werdum probably has more ways to win on the feet because he has his kicks, he has his knees, everything like that. But still, I gotta go with Stipe Miocic. I think he finds a way to win. I don't know how exactly. I think he does go to the judges. I think he just mixes it up on the feet, outpoints Werdum, and we get Bruce Buffer announcing the new champion here. But man, you cannot count out Fabricio Werdum at all in this fight. He's a heavyweight champion for a reason. Although if he was fighting Sea Level Kane, I do believe Kane would have won that fight. So. You never know. It's a very close matchup. I look at this matchup as I kind of lack reasoning why I'm picking Stipe in the sense that I feel Werdum has more ways to win. And I'm serious, Daniel. You're laughing, but he does have more ways to win. But I still think Stipe is going to get the job done. I'll go Stipe Miocic by decision, but it's a close fight. We'll see what happens on Saturday night. Now, guys, first off, Paolo, you're the DraftKings master here. Let us know who are your 5 fighters on your DraftKings team.
Okay, well, so now for this DraftKings team, you're going to need to fight 5 guys who finish the fight first round, because I think this card's going to have so many finishes that even if you get 5 guys who like all won, if they all didn't win impressively or the most impressive way possible, then you're not going to win. You could be scoring 450 points and be ending up with nothing. So here we go. We're going to take Chris Cyborg and Thiago Santos, obviously. Those 2 are going to be like the anchor to your team because they're probably the 2 best chances to finish early. Then you're going to take dog shots here. You're going to take Shogun Rua. You're going to take Vitor Belfort and Stipe Miocic. And hopefully those guys can get the job done. Now, the thing with Miocic is you could probably replace him with someone like Moicano, who's cheaper and probably has a higher chance to finish earlier than he does. But it's a 5-round fight, so he might be scoring a lot of points. So that's what we got.
All right, now my DraftKings team is loading up. Hopefully my internet connection does not fail us. Here we go. We got John Lineker to knock out Rob Font. We got Stipe Miocic to win a decision over Werdum. Sergio Moraes to submit. Who is he fighting? Luan Chagas. We got Anderson Silva. I swear I updated this. Here, give me 1 second. Daniel, give us
0 points for sure.
Give us your bets, and I'll come back with my DraftKings team. Hold on. Give us your bets though for UFC 198.
Hey, DraftKings, sponsor my show Half the Battle so I can give out my DraftKings lineup every single fight week. But if you want to tail my bets, go to bestfightpicks.com. I obviously took that shot on Shogun by KO at plus 400. We'll see what happens there. Took the shot on Rob Font. And, I'm looking at a couple of underdogs. But in this card, you got to see the weigh-ins. I mean, it's in Brazil. Lots of things have changed in the sport. So I got to see what's up before I make any commitments. But bestfightpicks.com on Twitter and at bestfightpicks on Twitter and bestfightpicks.com for the website.
Awesome. Now my DraftKings team, we got Jacare Souza to TKO Vitor Belfort, Damian Maia to decision Matt Brown, got Stipe Miocic to decision Fabricio Werdum, John Lineker to knockout Rob Font, and Francisco Trinaldo to decision Yancy Medeiros. I don't love that Trinaldo pick, but it was one of those cheaper plays that I still thought I have Trinaldo winning, of course. Now, Mike, I'm pretty sure I saw you on Twitter maybe last weekend during UFC Rotterdam say you got to get back into betting. So have you? And DraftKings, is that still a no-go?
Not yet on the DraftKings. Not as of yet. I just refreshed the betting website. I'm not sure if I'm going to break out some cash for this weekend's fights. But a couple picks that I kind of think are more along the for sure line, or that I would bet some money on. And my issue is that I was big on parlays, which, I'm like, I can get this for cheap and possibly win this. And then one of my teams or somebody that I know that I picked with my heart would screw me and I'd lose all my money. But what seems funny to me for you guys, is that none of you have Warley Alves on your DraftKings. You said that you like guys who would, possibly finish early.
He's very
Warley Alves is
expensive.
definitely the kind of fighter who likes to finish. Oh, he's expensive. Okay. See, I need to learn the rules to that game. So I'll let everybody stick to going over the, my man over here for all the betting advice. I'll go with his website, and you guys can check him out over there. I'll just keep quiet on my picks and let you guys know if I win or lose some money next week.
Perfect. Now, awesome. Now, thank you again, everyone, for doing this show as always. Now, Daniel, you already plugged your website, but do it again. If anyone tuned in really late, let us know where we can find you on Twitter. Let us know where we can find your podcast, wherever you can listen to that, your bets, everything else you got going on in the world of MMA. Go ahead.
Well, it's all about my show, Half the Battle. You got to subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Just interviewing the most exciting fighters in the game, and it's not really an interview; it's more of a conversation. And just try to ask the questions that no one else asks. As far as the bets, like I said, best5picks.com, at best5picks on Twitter. But it's all about the podcast, Half the Battle. Make sure you subscribe.
All right, now, Paolo, where can we find your writing? Where can we find you on social media? Anything else you got going on in the world of MMA? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find some of my writing at Sportsnet. I actually have one on Cyborg coming out soon. I got a couple for at Today's Knockout, and you can find me, including the DraftKings preview. And yeah, come find me at GoPaolo MMA, like it says down there.
Awesome. Now, Biggie, obviously you let everyone know your new fight details at the start of the show, but like I said for Daniel, I'm sure lots of people tuned in late, so let us know where we can find your fight. Let us all know of all those details, and let us know where you can find your social media. Anything else you got to say, go ahead.
Good. So you can check me out on all my social media at Team Rock Biggie. That's TeamRockBiggie. That's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. You can catch me over at Mike Biggie Rhodes fan page on Facebook, www.biggieMMA.com for my website. And once again, if you're just now tuning in, I will be winning the Victory Fighting Championships middleweight title on June 24th in Des Moines, Iowa. I get to beat up this guy named Rakeem Cleveland. So if you want to check that out and watch the ass whooping, you can head over on UFC Fight Pass. And if you don't want to sign up for it and pay a bunch of money monthly, you can wait and use your 7-day free pass to watch this dude catch an ass whooping.
Awesome. Now, as for me, you can find me on the Twitter at NickUFC. You can check out my other podcast, the MMA Circus. Episodes out each and every week. I hosted with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence. This past week, we had a stacked lineup. 4 guests. We had Bellator 154 headliner Phil Davis, who takes on King Mo this weekend, going head-to-head with UFC 198. Looking forward to his fight. We had UFC welterweight Rick Story, who returns to action since his win over Gunnar Nelson back in late 2014. He fights Tarek Safadine at UFC Fight Night 88 at the end of this month. We had Josh Appelt, who was supposed to headline this weekend's Bellator card against prospect Sergey Karatonov. Of course, that fight was scrapped. Sergey fell out of the matchup due to an illness, so we still aired that interview. He took his time out of his day to do that interview with us, so wanted to give back and air that interview despite the fight not happening. And rounding out that show, episode 58, we had Ian Butler. You may not know the name. He's a Bellator veteran, and he makes his kickboxing debut this weekend, tomorrow actually, at Glory 30 on the prelim card, so you can catch that on UFC Fight Pass. As far as my writing, all of that is over at bloodyelbow.com. I had 3 interview pieces out today. One with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, talking all about the matchup with Rory McDonald. He says he's demanding a title shot with the win over McDonald. I think, and he agrees, of course, he deserved a title shot after the Hendricks fight. I had the interview piece out with Phil Davis, talking all about his upcoming fight, the free agency market, how Bellator has been treating him, and he says Liam McGeary. The headline is Phil Davis, Liam McGeary knows who's next. is trembling in fear. Awesome interview with Phil Davis there. And the other one was Ian Butler. Like I said, you may not know the name. This guy was homeless till he was 14, so he has a really sad story, and he shared that with me. So very interesting to get his thoughts on that. Just growing up homeless and then moving to St. Louis when he was adopted at the age of 14. So very interesting stuff from him. And then I have one out tomorrow. Just wrote that up today. It was a 1,800-word piece on Patrick Cummings, talking everything, his matchup with Little Nog this weekend, and a bunch of other things. So interesting stuff over at Bloody Elbow, my podcast. Once again, thank you guys for stopping by, doing the show as always. Really appreciate it. With that, enjoy the fights.